Another week, another flavor highlight for EU5. This time we're talking about Eastern Europe with an emphasis on Novgorod. So it's great to see how exactly your gameplay is going to be out as Novgorod in EU5, since it's likely one of the fan favorites, especially when you just start out the game, since it's one of the bigger nations. At least on the map itself is bigger. Doesn't necessarily mean it's as strong as some of the other bigger nations. Now before we get into the gameplay flavor for Novgorod in EU5, do make sure to hit that subscribe button or else. Now, first and foremost, this is the latest iteration of Eastern Europe. There have been some map changes for sure, political, as well as some new nations added, some colors changed around, and this is the first time I think we actually see the proper updated colors individually for each nation. We don't have the overlay of, oh, these are all tributaries of the Golden Horde, so they have a slight different version of Golden. No, this is the actual colors of these nations. Now, the Sovereign Lord Republic of Veliki Novgorod is the new and improved, apparently, name of Novgorod. We got some bigger nations here in Beluzero. We got Rostov, Kostroma, Galishmersky. Muscovy might not be the biggest, but it is the most powerful for sure in their area. Tver is smaller than in EU4. Kashin is added, Uglish, Mologa, Suzdal, as well as the Oreshek buffer nation created between Novgorod and Sweden to maybe alleviate the wars they've been having and the conflicts. But spoiler alert, it didn't, okay? It really didn't. it had no effect, really. Fun fact, the leader of Oreshek, which was established in 1333 as a buffer state between the Swedes and the Novgorodians, was Lithuanian. He was Chanicus von Lithuanicus, as they would say, and his center of power was in the Oreshek fortress. Now, also to be noted, Novgorod at the start of the campaign is ruled by Ivan Rurikovich, also known as Ivan Moneybags. He technically was ousted in 1337 and was replaced by Simeon, but you do start with this dude, and I'm not so sure if you're going to be getting rid of him. He's also actually the leader of Muscovy, because the way that Novgorod works, or how it worked historically and how it's going to work in EU5, is they elect the leader of their country from one of the neighboring nations' leaders. That's how it was. It was actually a very interesting and smart way of Novgorod to make sure that the neighboring princes do not attack them, and if anything, by giving themselves an alliance with these other neighboring principalities, by choosing those principalities' leaders as their leader. They were very smart because it basically just prevented wars, and it made every prince around them think, oh, maybe I'll be the next top leader in the north, so maybe I shouldn't attack them and be friendly with them just in case. Get it? It's really smart. Very, very smart way of choosing your quote-unquote leader, despite the fact that really the council had most of the power. But yeah, Ivan Rurikovich, or Ivan Moneybags, was not a great leader for Novgorod, that's for sure. Was a good one for the Muscovites, not so much as the Grand Prince though, or Sovereign Lord of the Republic apparently. We do have actually the tooltip here for when you choose Novgorod. Originally founded by Slavs and Norse people of Holmgard, the new city of Novgorod became the main political economic center in the north, inhabited by the Russian people. Fiercely independent Novgorod Council elected its prince amongst neighboring rulers, although the true power is held by the people, council really, who thrive thanks to the commercial routes linking the rich inland resources with the Baltic and the White Seas. That is correct. It was a trade republic first and foremost, and it did thrive based on the trade it had with the Hanseatic League and other parts of Europe. In recent years, the Swedish war has almost been constant, halted by the creation of the buffer state of Oreshek. Meanwhile, to the south, Muscovy became a dominant power with the backing of the Golden Horde. The proud inhabitants of Novgorod may have to face some difficult decisions at these crossroads. That is very accurate. Remember this guy? Oh, yeah, actually they do mention Grand Prince Ivan Rurikovich Kalita, which means moneybags, of Muscovy, is the prince elected by the Council of Novgorod. It is a work in progress, everything, so keep that in mind, the UI and everything else. I do like it, actually, to be honest with you. I do wish though that the background for Novgorod would be a little bit more Eastern European, if I may say so. I don't feel like that's too Eastern European, but that's just my opinion though. Maybe add like an Adidas tracksuit guy squatting in the corner. That would be be accurate? What do you guys think? Take note, I probably forgot to mention Pskov also is a subject nation of Novgorod, the Pskov Trading Republic. And we have here the starting diplomatic map mode for Novgorod, which has been adjusted. Now take note, Muscovy is shown as a subject, but technically that's not the case. They don't really have an actual map mode for this right now, but certain pops, actual pops themselves within other countries will be subjects of other nations. So it's not just in the case of Novgorod, there's other cases around, but in this particular instance, Muscovy, remember the leader of Muscovy is the Grand Prince of Muscovy, but also the Lord of the Veliki Novgorod. So that's probably why, which also filters into the fact that Muscovy had its own dependencies as well. I'm actually curious to see how this all ties and how exactly they're going to make it a little bit more easy to explain, because right now just having this color on the map showing that there's certain pops in these nations that are your subjects is not very intuitive in my opinion. Also mentioned that Muscovy and other countries with a similar color share a PU with Novgorod through their ruler Ivan I. Yeah, literally my point here. So does that mean that Novgorod is the leader of all of the PUs? No, it doesn't mean that. It means that the leader of Muscovy and the leader of Novgorod is the same person. However, you can play as each one of these countries and they would not be one under a union with the other or vice versa. It's a bit more complicated in EU5. The vassal and the tributary system is a lot more accurate to how it was historically in my opinion. Now taking a deeper dive at Novgorod, we see the country's unique government reform. So this is the Veshe Republic, which offers 10% equilibrium and 10% power for all three of the estates, as well as efficiency of cabinet plus 15%, which is in my opinion really powerful. Shows when it was implemented in 1333, 100% implementation status, because apparently once you do enact a reform in EU5, it's not instant. It has a tick every month, every, I don't know, maybe day, week, nobody knows when. But as you progress in time, slowly the reform reaches 100%, at which point all of the effects of the reform will be maxed out. But when you implement it on day one, it's going to be like 1% or maybe 10%. I don't know. Nobody knows, right? And then from that, you only get a percentage of what the actual effect are, like what the actual modifiers are. This is also the cost to remove it, 20 stability, which is pretty steep. Then we have the Age of Tradition Advance, which is the Veshe Selection Succession Law. This allows male-only princes to be invited, not pre-select. So basically when your leader dies, you invite a new leader from one of the other principalities in the Russian area. Estates are also very powerful. Here are some unique privileges. The Quorum Lenige, which offers 2 loyalty and 20% influence, which is pretty strong, gives monthly progress to centralization as well as maximum tax for estate reduction by 5% for the noble's estate. The Riad, which gives efficiency of cabinet plus 5% as well, but 50%. Oh my god, that's actually huge influence. And the Tisiatsky office that gives monthly army tradition 0.10. Burghers also get Ivan's 100, which lowers trade maintenance by 25% and increases republican tradition, but also lowers the crown power. This is really good because, let's face it, Novgorod is after all a major trade republic, so this will help them get the upper edge over other trade nations, perhaps getting that massive trade maintenance reduction. There's also unique policies. The first is for the legal code Ruskaya Pravda, which means subscribe to Ludi at Historia or you're not going to have your wallet by tomorrow at 5 p.m. Just saying, that's exactly what it means. Hey, I didn't make this up. I don't know why they called it that, but it is what it means. Now, it does give progress towards serfdom and estate satisfaction for all of the estates plus 2.5, as well as nobles, especially an extra 10%. So I guess it means 12.5% for the nobles overall. Piatina division also for the admin system law gives prosperity and monthly development by default is actually pretty cool. And again, when you enact these laws, it takes a while to implement. Look at that, 2 years to fully implement this kind of legislation. So almost all the things that you do in EU5, once you enact them, it's not an instant, I clicked it and it's done. No, it takes a while to implement, especially laws and such reforms. There's also a unique work of art, the House of the Holy Wisdom. It's very good quality. It's a monument created in 1128 in Novgorod. It is a cathedral apparently, okay? We also have the St. George of Yuriev work of art. It's an icon. We also have now the first snippet in religious law, the role of the patriarchate, and the birch bark manuscript advanced or technology, whatever you want to call it, available from the very first age. age gives literacy plus 2.5, cultural tradition from Novgorod's first chronicle, funding of Ushkusniki, privateer maintenance reduction, so it allows you to privateer, that's interesting, as well as it gives privateer durability. And then in the Age of Renaissance, we have Northern Center of Arts, which lowers the salaries of artists, increases the chance of starting a work of art every month, and it also allows you to get one more artist. With a reform of the Posadnichesko, expand the Posadnichesko office, which is a government reform leading towards decentralization in opposition to the centralization reform that we had earlier. It also lowers the cabinet member cost by 25, as well as the ability to replace cabinet members is also cheaper by 25%. Now, after you start your campaign, one of the first things you're going to see is the Veliko Novgorod's reaction. Now, this event triggers after you've got some interactions, let's say with the Swedes, and it goes like this. The Swedes have come with the demand. They want to hold a theological debate between Magnus Altasgon and one of our theologians. You have two options: forward them to debate with Byzantium or accept the theological debate. Now, this goes to show that this is a period in time when there might have still been some sort of unity in the Eastern Orthodox churches where they saw the Patriarchate of Constantinople as the ultimate authority. Of course, that was not the case. Later on, it became a lot more decentralized after the fall of Constantinople, but technically still the Patriarchate in Constantinople even today has some sort of authority over the Eastern Orthodox Church. Another event that might trigger is the Karelian Revolt of 1338. This triggered actually because some people were not subscribed to the channel. That's totally why it happened. And you have two options. Again, troublesome times ahead, or let them unite with their people. So you have the option of letting the Karelian people split. So you lose basically lands if you go for that particular option. You also have the event to expand the Cathedral of Saint Sophia, and it's going to cost 1,000 gold, and it gives 10% estate satisfaction for patriarchs, and it gives you one grand cathedral, so that's definitely super worth it. Another event after the 1400s is the Soviet Gospod. Now, this removes altogether the Vesher Republic government reform, and it replaces with the Soviet Gospod, which kind of sounds like the Soviet Union a little bit, but probably not the same thing, let's face it. It gives boyars estate satisfaction, and it lowers the satisfaction for the commoners and the burghers. This is what it gives as a major reform. Nobles power increase, estate satisfaction for the nobles, stability decay reduction, and efficiency of government. So it's basically the same like the Vesher Republic, but the difference is that all the power goes to the nobles instead of it going to everybody in the country. So this is pretty much a nobles takeover of the government in essence. Next time we're going to have a look at Mali, the lands of Mansa Musa, because this is the time of Mansa Musa. So that's going to be really, really interesting. Probably the most interesting out of all we've had so far. And I also want to go into the comment section because I've seen some really interesting things here. Melogole posts a few suggestions about changes to be done to Novgorod, where he expresses that Novgorod should be a tributary of the Golden Horde. He actually gives some decent sources. Valentin Lavrentievich Yanin, which is a Soviet historian and archaeologist, he actually does have a point. I have to agree with him, because realistically speaking, the Novgorodians did pay some type of tribute. However, I would argue that it should be like a special, if it's going to be done, which is why I know that it's not going to be done, but it should be like a special type of tributary, because the Golden Horde was really extracting a ton of tribute from the various Russian principalities. But I'm pretty sure when it came to Novgorod, they had a different sort of agreement. It might have even been a bit of an informal tributary agreement, not as very much so formal as it was with the other southern principalities, right? Also, for game balancing purpose, I would like to see personally Novgorod being independent, not being a tributary of the Great Horde, because then it would make things more complicated too, since them joining in the war against the Golden Horde to break away from the Tatar yoke would make it just very easy in my opinion. But here's the thing, you could say have Novgorod at the start a regular tributary, but then have an event where you pay a little bit of money or do something and then you stop being a tributary without having to go through the whole process that all the other Muscovy and other Russian principalities have to go through to get rid of the Tatar yoke. Just an opinion though. Pavia also leaks in the comment section what the estate looks like for Novgorod at the start. We have here the Republic with their particular privileges, the boyars, the patriarchs, the burghers, and the commoners. So we've got 5 different estates from day one with different privileges and different estate satisfaction. Look how massive the estate satisfaction is for the boyars compared to the patriarchs or even to the burghers for that matter. He also mentions that the Cathedral of St. Sophia is just a generic Catholic Western art. Orthodox wouldn't have cardinals at the time. Yes, that makes a lot more sense. That's going to be it for me. I love you all, and I'll see you in the next one.